Isn't it a lovely day? I've arranged to meet my good friend Pat later this week for a picnic. You'll remember her from when we made butter. I thought I'd put together a simple basket of tongue sandwiches and jam tarts. Oh, and a flask of tea, of course. Tongue takes a very long time, but it is very easy. When you buy a tongue, it usually comes pickled, that is, brined or salted. This is a cow's tongue. You could use any tongue. Sheep are smaller and calves are finer. Beef is the most common. I've soaked this for a day to take out some of the saltiness. You could buy a tongue that's unpickled, but then you'd want to add the salt to the water when it's boiling. I'm now going to boil it for 3 to 4 hours. Into the pan of water. I'm then going to bring it to the boil. Which is going to take a bit of time. So I'm going to have a cup of tea and pick my herbs for later. It's come to the boil, so I've turned it down a bit, and now I'm just going to skim off some of the scum. Now for flavour, I'm going to add a roughly chopped carrot, some celery, an onion with cloves, and from my garden I've tied together some rosemary, parsley, bay and thyme. I'm going to let that simmer away for a while. If the fuel cost is going to be a problem, you could let this simmer on the back of a range, or you could use a hay box. Using a hay box would take a long time. Perhaps I should show you how to use one day. Anyway, I've got things I need to get on with, so I'll come back when it's done. I'm going to skin the tongue and cut off any fatty bits. It should come off a little bit like a glove. There's nothing you can do with it really, apart from put it out for the swillmen and the pigs. I would advise everyone to know how to handle offal. It's not only economical, but also, if it's cooked right, it's the best part of the animal. During the war, offal wasn't rationed, and the meat ration was done by price, so the rich could afford their steaks, albeit very small, while the rest of us were sensible, and we got in stewing steak. But kidney, heart, liver, tongue, well, that was all about knowing a good butcher or a farmer or anyone who had pigs, as long as it wasn't declared. I'm sure that many of you are sick of offal and would choose the meatier cuts if you could. But I don't think that's a good attitude, especially nowadays with the price of meat rising. Knowing how to cook offal is not only sensible, but also respectful. And if you're brought up in the country like I was, then if an animal is killed for you, you should use all of it. I'm now going to put the tongue in my meat press. If you don't have a meat press, you could use a brawn jar or a cake tin and just put a plate on top and weights on top of that. Well, there we are. I'm going to leave that now in the corridor overnight to set. Here's my tongue turned out. I know it doesn't look much. You could serve it whole. Work wonders with rosemary. I'm going to slice a bit for my sandwiches. Just as I like it. Brings back memories of rushing home from school ravenous. I think in my sandwiches, I'm going to add a bit of mustard. You could add horseradish or pickles, whatever you like, really. I'm making jam tarts to go with my sandwiches. They are probably the easiest thing to make and should please everyone. I've rolled out my pastry. I'm using short crust, but any will do, and I'm going to line the tin. I know that Pat really likes jam. While she was staying with us during the war, she went out blackberrying in the autumn and would collect rosehip and all sorts of orchard fruits and became quite a proficient jam maker. Pat came here as a land girl, along with Clara Jeffcock, but she didn't stay here with us long because she didn't like the fact we didn't have a bath, of all things. But she stayed for the war and we became fast friends. She's married now, of course. And now for the jam. I think 2 spoons in each. I'm going to cook them on a moderate heat until the jam is bubbling and the pastry cooked through. Isn't my hamper lovely? I won it in a raffle at the chapel. Much better than a jigsaw or a subscription to My Home magazine, which is always full of love stories and impractical knitting patterns. I prefer Reader's Digest. Anyway, here are my sandwiches. And my jam tarts. I mustn't forget my thermos of tea, sugar, or the milk. But first, I'm going to change my dress. Not everyone likes picnicking. I think it's something to do with the fear of getting wasps or ants or grass in your drawers. It's only really been in the last few years that picnics have become so popular. Before the war, it was the likes of the Mrs. Longs who picnicked, with a large picnic hamper strapped to a car and a servant to demould their jellies. If the likes of you or I sat down on the grass and ate a sandwich under a tree, it would just be dinner or supper or tea. But since cars have become so much cheaper and people are taking more holidays, then picnics have become more popular. Fred and I are hoping to get away to Yarmouth sometime soon.